All right. Welcome back to 755 Forever. I'm David O'Brien, Braves writer at The Athletic. I'm with my co-host, Eric O'Flaherty, former Braves reliever. What's going on, Eric?
Not much, Dave. How you been?
All right, man. Just got back from San Diego. Had the had a long Sunday with the game in at 1 o'clock game and in the draft that we didn't get finished till midnight there. So at 4 a.m. Uber from San Diego, the airport. But man, I was gonna tell you, you would not even recognize the atmosphere at San Diego now.
I feel like that because people ask me how that park is, and I'm like, I can't weigh in because
It used to be so boring.
yeah, when I would go through there, this was like '09 to
Yeah.
14, with the Braves, it felt like everybody there was just walking by
Yeah.
and looked inside and said, "Hey, baseball game would be cool today."
Yeah.
And then when they got a new GM and they made all those moves and they looked like they were going to be good and compete with the Dodgers. I was watching games on TV like I've never been to that place. It was never like that when I went through there.
That's funny. Somebody from a writer from San Diego was saying the same thing. He said, "Yeah, we used to be like it was like in." He was younger, and he said like 2010 or whatever. He's dating some girl, and she's like, "Hey, you want to go to the baseball game tonight? Get a hot dog and beer and everything." That's like, yeah, whatever. And they went out. It was like paid like $7 and sat and watched the
Yep.
game. Okay, so they played the Braves. They sold out all three games, and the place
Wow.
was packed. They had a sellout crowd for a Sunday 1 o'clock game against the Braves. The
I
Braves aren't
never
even
saw
selling
that
out
place packed.
Sunday 1 o'clock games, and they sell out 50 games last year, 53. Yeah, and it's not just packed. They're
They're into
really
it.
into it. They know
Yeah.
what they know I mean, they're good fans.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a dormant baseball town, kind of like Pittsburgh. You give them something to cheer for, but Pittsburgh hasn't packed it like that place has. But they got an exciting team, and the uniforms are back. Everybody loves the old brown uniforms, and a lot of people like those hideous City Connects too. All the pastel, the pink and yellow and blue and everything. You see them everywhere.
Yeah.
Like they wear them on Saturday, so that day, many thousands of the fans wear the hats, the jerseys, the shirts for those pastels. So it kind of clashes with the brown and yellow. It makes quite for a color
Yeah.
scheme there. But between the crowds and the weather, it's like, and every day it was high of 72 to 74, low of 68. So they got a good atmosphere.
Yeah, I don't even recognize that place when I see it on TV.
But they were good games. Braves won 2 out of 3. They needed that after, it's the same old with the Braves. They take a step forward, take a step back, and just when you think they've turned a corner offensively, they have a couple of games like they did to start the series in Arizona, and they won the first two there. Then they lose the last two, and they got shut out in the fourth one. And then in San Diego, they win the first and third games. They get shut out in the middle game. They've now been shut out, I think it's 6 times, 5 times in 37 games. This is a team that didn't get shut out in 180 some games for over a year, almost 400 days. They didn't get shut out. So there were definitely some encouraging signs, no doubt. I mean, there's some guys are starting to hit a little bit. I mean, Darno has 2 homers yesterday. The pitching is they keep doing it and they're healthy, and that's the biggest thing. Chris Sale's healthy. He pitches 5 yesterday. I was in agreement. They were like they thought about skipping him, but they didn't really have another move they could make that would work well. So they agreed. He agreed. You're only going to pitch 5, and he went 5. Give up 1 run. That guy's been phenomenal. He's the first Braves. He's leading the majors in wins by 2. He's got 13. First Braves pitcher since Smoltz in '96 to have 13 wins at the break. That was Smoltz's 24 win Cy Young season.
I think it's who shows up every time too. It fires the team up and you feel like you're going to
Oh
win
yeah,
that day. He doesn't. I mean, he might have a bad game, but he's not having an off day mentally. Every time he shows
never.
up, it's like game seven attitude. And I think that's something that just fires a team up.
They all love playing behind him. And that's the thing is he's had 2 starts in a row. The one in Arizona, I think he had 29 pitches in the first inning, 27 or 29. He ends up having a great start. This one he had almost as many, and then nothing. He gave up 3 singles in the first inning, 1 run, and then gave up 1 hit the rest of his way. So this guy does not get flustered. He just gets more intense and locked in.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's something to see, man. And he's like, Lopez is teetering on just having enough innings to qualify. He's leading the majors in ERA again. Sale's not like that. He's going 7, like every time out, 6 or 7. So, and this time he went on regular rest. It's what a trade. It's going to end up being one of the biggest trades in the majors, and that 2-year deal that they signed him to is going to be a godsend when next year, with all the question marks there are going to be about the rotation going into next year, he's going to be a rock solid guy to build around for next year.
Yeah, and he came up when that was the standard. Starters weren't happy. I mean, just toward the back end of it, because the standard was like you want to have that quality start, but you want to go 7.
Right.
Guys went 7, they felt good about it. If they went 5 shutout, they still felt like,
Yeah.
not too great about it. And with all the pitch counts and all the stuff going on, it makes a little more sense. But you don't see a lot of guys just consistently throwing 6 and 7 innings anymore. And I think if he throws 29 in the first, he's probably thinking, I got to go out and have a 10-pitch inning because I
Yeah.
got to go 7. It's not just like, let me get through this and stop the bleeding. It's how do I still have a really good start and go deep?
And he says that like every time he pitches, he points out that's our job as starters to post,
Yeah.
to take some pressure off the bullpen. And every
Hmm.
time you ask him about having so many wins, what does it mean? He goes, it means I have a hell of a bullpen. I've got an offense that's delivered some big hits, and I got a great defense. He
Yeah.
always credits everybody else. Austin Riley, by the way, phenomenal play in the first inning. Diving, looked like that was a Arenado play at his best. Brooks Robinson play for the older folks out there. He dove completely horizontal to his left, makes a stop, gets up, makes a strong throw to first. There were 2 on with 2 out in the first inning, a run already in, 3 hits. That ball goes past him. That's 2 more runs. It's a 3-0
Yep.
game. And it's like Sales said, that changes everything. That changed the whole game. That saved the game there. And he made sure he credited Riley with making that play. So their defense has been solid. I mean, they've had a couple of games, a couple of innings where they made a couple of errors, 3 errors, whatever. But for the most part, it's been solid. And it hasn't really wavered with in some really bad hitting streaks either. It's important with that pitching staff.
Yeah, and just with things not really going their way, and a lot of guys having down years offensively,
Right.
nobody's taking it out into the field, and you can feel whatever you want watching the games, but I don't think they feel that. Start turning your eye toward the wild card.
Right.
They're not conceding anything. They're going to play
Right.
their asses off and play hard till the end. But that's something that's easier said than done when you're seeing the Phillies be as hot as they are. Maybe you're a guy hitting 50 points below your season last year career average to go out there and play hard for all 9 innings. I mean, it's a long summer, and
Yeah.
guys are making plays down 7 runs and in the ninth. It's just a sign of a really good clubhouse and a really good team.
Speaking of that pitching staff, so the Phillies faltered here in the last week. They're pitching wise. Ranger Suarez got rocked his last 2 starts. He backed out of the. They said he had back tightness in his last start, so he skipped the All-Star game, and that allowed Max Fried to go on, which is pretty cool. But Suarez got rocked his last 2 starts. His ERA went up more than a run, and then they give up 17, 18 runs to the A's yesterday.
18.
17 or 18 runs to the A's yesterday. The result, as hard as it is to believe, considering where the Phillies pitching was for the most of the first half, the Braves now have the major's best ERA, 3.40, right ahead of the Phillies, 3.41, and the Mariners at 3.46.
Yeah, if I could have told you that when Strider got hurt,
Oh, I know.
because no one would have expected the offense to struggle for this long. I mean, you'd think they would have a 10-game lead.
If somebody had told you when Strider got hurt, because it felt like the season was over for a lot of us, it's like, okay, they can't overcome this. But somebody had said, not only will the Braves have 3 all-star starting pitchers for the
Yep.
first time since the 90s, 97, when it was Glavine, Maddox, and Nagel, not Smoltz. So it was Nagel's best year. He finished Cy Young runner-up to Maddox, to third to Pedro and Maddox. Won 20 games that year, Nagel. So they had 3 that year. First time since then. And also that they're going to have the best ERA in the majors with Strider out.
Yeah, it would have been a tough sell.
Yeah. But obviously nobody's speaking of Sale, nobody saw this from Sale or Ronaldo Lopez. I mean, I had my doubts. I thought he could be good, but I really thought, and we talked about it. I thought even if he starts the year out in the rotation by around before the All-Star break, they're going to have him in the bullpen and they're going to have one of those young kids in the rotation, like Schwellenbach. That's how I thought it would go. I thought it would be Smith Shawver, Bryce Elder would be back, whatever. And the bullpen would need him more than the rotation did. And he'd be back in there pitching as a setup guy and a backup closer. Who
Yeah,
knew
I
that he's
thought
going
so
to
too.
change it? But he really kind of remade himself as a starter. I mean, he developed. He started throwing his third pitch a lot more all the time, and he started pacing himself, not coming out and just airing it out, not letting it eat. And I didn't think a guy he would. He didn't strike me as the type of guy that could do that because
I
we
didn't
saw
see
him
that
last
coming.
year throwing
No.
100, 99, 100, blowing away Ozuna and Acuna with nothing but fastballs. So I thought there's no way he's going to come in and just change him. But he did. He throws 95, 96. He'll rear back and go to 98 if he needs to get out of a jam. I mean, he's got a real feel for pitching, which I didn't see. Um, feel for pitching. Speaking of Schwellenbach, I've talked to a bunch of guys the last couple of days about him. Everybody says they marvel at the fact that the guy's got so much composure, so with so little experience pitching, that he's got such a feel for pitching that it could come in basically as a 3-pitch pitcher, and in a span of a month, be throwing 6 pitches, include a
Yeah.
sinker that he just started throwing in the middle after he got here, that he hadn't thrown since the offseason. But he's throwing 6 pitches, and they said that he never loses his composure, and he's like a sponge, and he's listening to the catchers all the time. He wants to be great, and he listens to stuff. And they said the way he processes things within a game and makes adjustments is really impressive. I thought he said something great in San Diego. They came out and we asked him what changed because he got knocked around a little bit early in his start. And he said it was about the third inning. I said, why am I'm trying to miss bats too much. Go out there and don't go out there don't go out there chasing strikeouts. Go out there chasing weak contact or contact. And it was like that. And he did the rest of the game. Soft contact. His barrel rates and contact rates, soft contact, and all they're like at the top of the league already.
Yeah,
Nobody hits barrels him up.
that's a good sign. I mean, he's probably got some late life, and
Yeah.
I mean, just being willing, being willing to try a two-seamer or sinker in the middle of the season and take it into games, and hopefully you have some success with it early. But when I learned how to do that, when I learned how to kind of read when a guy was aggressive in the box, and it would happen for me a lot because you get the 3-4 hitters, and I was a left-handed setup man throwing 89, 91. And guys would come up and they'd say, "This is where I can do some damage." And I could
Yeah.
see that. I could see how they got in the box if they were looking aggressive. And I'm like, if I miss here, I'm in trouble. But if
Yeah.
I just make the pitch, and that's the difference in the mindset of like thinking when you want to strike guys out or get a swing and miss, you're thinking like it's got to be nasty, it's got to be this, and your effort level might climb. But when I learned how to just stay within myself and just be like, if you just hit that spot and it
Yeah.
moves the way you want it to, and they're doing what you think they're trying to do, you get the ground ball to shortstop. You start at middle and their eyes get big, you run it away from them, catch it off the end, and then you get these quick outs instead of, if I overthrow that pitch and try to make it nasty, maybe I leave it up in the zone and they do some damage, or I'm ball one.
Yeah.
Then I got to catch more plate. Just when you start being able to think like that, I didn't learn how to do it until probably my third or fourth year in the big leagues, but I do think it helped him a lot that he was a hitter, in
Yeah.
college against good pitching. But when you learn how to do that, you can get into any situation and you know that a good pitch gets a good hitter out, that you don't have to be perfect. And that keeps your effort level in check and you stay consistent, through whatever kind of pressure you get thrown at you. If you have bases loaded, you can still make a pitch and get out of it. And, the battle's just trusting that, especially
Yeah.
when the crowd gets loud and you get amped up. It's easier said than done, but when you learn how to do that, pitching's not that complicated.
That's what a couple of the guys, Matt Olson said the same thing about him, is that he's got a lot of confidence and he thinks that being a position player, shortstop, really taught him a lot about what hitters are looking for,
Yep.
what frustrates hitters, all that. And it's a great point. A lot of these guys are coming up as two-way players in college or high school, and a lot of them seem to be kind of have that intuition because they were hitters. And speaking of, the guy the Braves just drafted in the first round, familiar name, Caminiti.
Yep.
Ken Caminiti's cousin, Cam Caminiti, 6'4" pitcher out of 6'3" out of Scottsdale Saguaro High School, 17 years old, reclassified, moved up a grade. First pitcher taken yesterday, high school pitcher taken in the draft. Braves got a steal, every pundit said, because they all thought he was going to go 11th to the Tigers and 13th to the Giants. He had some real strong ties to the Giants. Talked to him a lot because he lives in Scottsdale. They train out there. So when he was available for the Braves at 24, they were like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. Book it.
Oh, my God. This guy, everybody talks about his arm, big arm, really athletic, center fielder in high school, too, that hit like over 400 with like a 650 on base percentage as a senior. But he's really athletic, rangy guy. Looks like an athlete. Looks like a basketball player almost. But the big thing that struck me is he was throwing 95 at 15.
At 15.
15 years old.
Jesus, I was probably throwing mid 70s.
He's only 17 now, and he's
Yeah,
throwing
that's true.
98.
Yeah.
He tops out at 98. And a Brave scouting director said, I saw him 2 or 3 times where he was holding 96 into the 7th inning of high school games.
It's clean. Like I watched him
Yeah.
throw and I looked at it and
Yeah.
there's not, I mean, he's really not even getting his body into it too much. I mean, it's pretty simple delivery, kind of just step and throw. He's got good, he rotates well and is, I
Yeah.
mean, he stays grounded really well, but the effort level doesn't look high. I mean, it's kind of
Right.
just, it almost reminds you of a guy just playing catch. And I think, you know, if you're scouting that, you're like, I wonder how much more is in the tank when
Yeah.
we get some pro coaching on him. You don't know what kind of workouts he's done to get to this level. But that was what struck me because I looked at it and I saw him. I just found a video of him on YouTube and I saw him about to throw him. Man, it looks like he's a control guy that's about to throw 89, 90 left-handed.
Yeah.
And then the gun says 96, 97.
Yeah.
You know, for the effort
Yeah.
level, doesn't look high.
Easy cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very repeatable delivery, and no, like you said, he's not max effort. You know, he said what's helped him tremendously in the last year and a half. He's been doing Pilates big time. His chiropractor sent him to a guy that does Pilates, instructor. He said it's helped his back, his core so much, and he said I think I've got a lot more arm strength, to be honest, from the Pilates.
Yeah, that
I
core
know.
stuff. I mean, just staying connected. That was, I didn't do Pilates, but that was what I did to rehab my back was a lot of like core stuff where you're getting your body spread out and you're having to balance and do different things. And I just felt like everything was working together. And remember Jake Arrieta? He was in the heavy lifting and doing all that in Baltimore and
Right.
struggling. And then he just got into kale juice
Yeah.
and Pilates and started throwing 98-mile-an-hour devil balls and had a
Yeah.
really good run doing that. But I always tell guys that too. You know, it's not like there's not one formula. Everybody has like a different body. It all functions different. You got to find what works for you. But whatever he's doing, I mean, to
Yeah.
throw 95, 96 that easy. And I even saw one from behind home plate and the ball takes off. It's got that
Yeah.
afterburn to it. And it's a low effort 95, 96.
Yeah, and he says, and he also is another that he credits being a center fielder because you got that really good view of the pitchers. He said he's learned so much watching hitters from center field when he's out
Oh, I
there.
bet.
So smart kid, man. What a pick to be able to get that guy 24. I don't know what some other teams were thinking, but I don't know what the drawback would have been if, different people looking for different things. They have needs, special needs, whatever. But this, wow, that's not what I was expecting at down there at that spot. It was a long day yesterday in San Diego, and I wish I would have had some Joe Van Go coffee. I had Pressbox coffee, C4, which I'm drinking now as well, and some cold coffee can of cold coffee. It was a good combination. But in Braves country and all over baseball, it's the middle of the season and time for the All-Star break. There's another break worth taking. That would be a coffee break to remember the Braves legend Henry Aaron, who was selected for the Midsummer Classic 20 sometimes. Joe Van Gogh Coffee is bringing back blend number 44 in honor of Aaron. For a limited time, find our blend number 44 at joevango.com and enter the code HAMMER at checkout to receive an additional 20% off your purchase. Joe Van Gogh has been roasting and serving coffee for 30 years and following the Braves through each and every one of them. Visit Joe Van Gogh, JoeVanGogh.com. And just in case it's too hot for you, blend number 44 makes a great cold brew as well. So yeah, this guy, Cam Caminiti, great name, by the way. I think it's Camille. I think his actual name is Camille. I
Okay.
think I saw, but anyway, Cam Caminiti, what a natural, you're naming it. But uh, I'm not gonna throw anybody under the bus, but one of the younger writers on the conference call yesterday asked him, and you'll know why I say he's one of the younger writers, because he said, "Have you had a chance to talk to your cousin since you were drafted?" I was like, "Oh,
No good.
no." I was like, but then I thought, yeah, that was a long time ago. This person probably would have, yeah.
Yep.
For those who don't remember, Cam died tragically at a very early age. So actually, he died a couple of years before Cam was born. So he never met him, obviously. But he said, somebody asked what his legacy means to him. He goes, it means everything. He goes, having the name, he goes, it's had allowed him to have so many relationships in
Oh
baseball
yeah. Right
because people
away.
hear that name. Yeah, people hear
Right
that
away.
name. And living in Scottsdale, he's gone to
Baseball
some
people everywhere.
Padre spring training games right there. What, Mesa? I think they train with them.
Hmm.
Aren't they? Anyway, he's gone to some Padres games, and people will see him. He heard some people talking about Kennedy introduce himself, and they're like, "Oh my God, you're related. You're related to him." And they're like, but and everybody thinks so highly of Ken Caminiti because, like, I asked him, I said, "Do you aware like your cousin's reputation as a player?" And he said, oh yeah." He goes, "He played as hard as you possibly can, every pitch, every game, in every way." And I'm like, "Yep, that was the reputation." So he said having that legacy and that name is like an honor. And he's met and also people in MLB were real fond of
Yeah.
Ken. He was an MVP and had a run there where he was one of the best 2 or 3 players in the game for a few years. So, but anyway, pretty cool stuff. And I think the Braves hit it out of the park with that one because it's always hit or miss when you're picking at the end of the first round. You got to go
Yeah.
big, try to swing for the fences, but sometimes you're going to come up empty. I don't think they could possibly have done better than this guy. This is by all the consensus too. I was listening to the people on the draft coverage when they said it, they go, "That's a steal for the Braves." I mean,
Yeah.
there's no way they thought that guy was going to be there. So and they like to pile up on as much pitching, just about like almost every team does. You can't have too
Yep.
much. You figure you're going to lose 1 out of 3 of them or so to Tommy John,
One or three is gonna
setback.
suck.
Yep.
You
And then
know.
it's like, I think John Hart was the one you used to say you draft 10 of them and hope 2 or 3 of them make it.
Yep.
So, but this
Yep.
kid's got all the reasons to believe that he's going to make it. He's got all the tools, got the intellect, it seems like. And when they come from that background too, out in Scottsdale and Arizona, it's a sophisticated baseball background. So they've already
Yeah.
gotten a lot of that shit out of the way that they're going to be learning
Yeah.
in the minors, because they've been doing baseball and the workouts in the off season and stuff. So as long as they've not worn out their arms, then they've learned
Right.
a whole lot of stuff.
So
But
what do you I think of this like outside of maybe the top 3 or 4 picks, if you take a guy in the first round and he just has a big league career, say 3 to 5 years, maybe a little longer, that's a good pick.
oh yeah, if they
If they,
help
if
you
they
at the big league level at all,
yeah,
it's a good pick. Yeah. I mean, you hope they do a little bit more but yeah, if you take a guy at the end of the first round and he helps you win some games in the big leagues, that's a success.
yeah. Yeah, I was just
So,
talking to a buddy about it, and he was just kind of expecting every first round pick to turn into a future all-star or, perennial all-star. And I was like, yeah, I look at it like if they just contribute and
yeah.
put together a career, that it was a good pick. We were out here going through the Mariners draft picks for a period of time, and it was like they missed on like 5 or 6, 7 years in a row, and just how bad it
Yeah,
hurts you to miss with those picks. But
right.
still, I still think of it as a hit if the guy puts in some 4, 5, 6 years in the big leagues.
And the Braves had some years too, some lean years where they were like financially they were looking to draft guys they knew they could sign at like under
Yep.
slot and that kind of thing, signable guys. So they wasted some picks. I mean, their former GM, the guys that aren't here anymore, they wasted some picks. And it wasn't all on them. It was the budget they had, but
Yep.
that's a shame because you look at some of the people that were picked around those guys they took. I think when you pick at the end of the draft, if you at the end of the first round, like you said, if you get some guy that helps you for a few years, that's a success. But I think when you are picking up in the top five or so,
They need to
you need
be
to do
a stud.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you need to be rewarded for sucking. Getting
Yeah.
that high pick, you better
Yep.
turn it into something that can help you not suck.
Yeah.
You can't have both, especially since if you're a bad team, you probably have a low budget, low
Hmm.
payroll. So you got to get guys that can help you until they get too expensive to keep. You got
Yeah.
to get guys that can help you, or you can use them as trade pieces when they get. You can't just swing and miss at guys in the top five picks.
Yeah.
But teams do, and you can't. There's some guys. Sometimes the guys that, as you know, are rated as the number one, two, not maybe not one, but the top 10 prospects turn out to be nothing. You
Right.
know,
Yeah. I
and then
remember
some,
the year I
and then
got drafted, there were some guys that, I mean, back when I was getting drafted, it was like Baseball America, and you're reading it, and I'm reading about these guys like they're gods, and then I faced them in rookie ball, and I was like, this dude
yeah,
can't hit a lefty slider.
yeah,
How's he rated so high? And it's strictly tools and stuff, but then you
yeah,
compete against them, and you're like, this was the guy they were making all this fuss about. And you
yeah.
could see his body language, and he's overwhelmed in rookie ball. It's like there's no way this guy makes it.
And then some other guys, if you look back at like Strider and Schwellenbach, they weren't
Yep.
in the top 10, 15. And you look at them out there pitching
Yeah.
in their first 10 games in the big leagues, and you're going, how were 10 people rated ahead of this
Exactly.
guy? You know?
Yeah.
So
You almost need a combine where you put 50,000 in the stands, and
yeah,
I mean you almost it's so hard to gauge how a guy is going to handle pressure, especially when so many of them are playing in a high school league, or
yeah,
I mean college. I think that's why a lot of teams lean toward college, because there's better
yeah, I do too.
competition and a better atmosphere to get that gauge. But I just feel like that's the crucial factor. It's just what's going to happen when the bright lights come on and these guys get challenged. I mean, because you can have all the tools in the world, and if you can't handle pressure and stay calm, good luck.
Yeah, I don't think there's nearly as much projecting involved with the college guy
Right.
when you've seen him face the equivalent of low minor leaguers in the
Yeah.
college, and even double A hitters in some of these leagues, the highest leagues, the SEC, the ACC, some of those guys have got some future first round, a lot of future first round picks, as opposed to seeing a guy pitching in, some Illinois high school where he's got 150 strikeouts and
Yeah.
60 innings, and a
He's the
oh
only
point.
guy in the league that throws 90.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So it's hard to project, even by scouts who've done nothing, who that's their livelihood is going to these games and watching. Even for them, it's hard. There's just
Yep.
no way of knowing. You don't know what's going on in a guy's head until, like you said, he's pitching in pressure. There's no way to gauge what Schwellenbach's going to do when he's in college playing shortstop or closing games, even at a relatively strong baseball school. It's not the SEC, but I mean Nebraska played some real competition, but they're playing in front of a few thousand people or whatever, and he's not out there taking the ball and starting in front of 45,000. He was pitching in front of in San
Yeah.
Diego.
Acting like it's nothing.
Right, right, and he's only made like 8 major league starts.
Yep.
So, and he only had 100 innings in the minors and
Yeah.
30 innings in college. So that's special right there. That's when you know you got a special guy right there. So, um, I talked to Michael Harris again. He made the trip on this one, I think, because it was a family trip, but also they wanted him to work with the trainers because they were going to the break. I think they probably sent some other guys home from here since they weren't coming back. So it was just easier to work with the trainers. But I get a feel he's getting closer to a rehab start, but he's still not been cleared to sprinting. I think they're going to let him shut it down over the 4 days of the break, come back. Then I would imagine they'll clear him to start sprinting. But they've been smart because his game, we've talked about this. His whole game is speed and explosiveness. And if he were to have a twinge again, just a slight hamstring, you're back square one.
Yeah.
So it's got to be completely healthy, kind of like an oblique. It's got to be completely healthy.
Yeah. And then you're dealing with the that butterfly effect of how much more time off, like the more time you get off with this injury, it's not just about the injury anymore. It's like playing catch up.
Yeah.
So yeah, you don't want to risk it. And then he's missed 3 months because he had to miss a month and a half twice. You'd rather
Right.
just have him miss two.
Right. He's missed a month now. Exactly.
Yeah.
But we thought that when he said grade two, he's
Yeah.
going to miss at least a month and probably
Yeah.
closer to 2 months. So it'll be at least a couple of weeks because he's going to have to be cleared to sprint, and then he's going to have to go out and do a rehab assignment. So I would think it's at least another couple of weeks, from maybe closer to a month. Injury report is brought to you by Gerber and Holder, attorneys who only represent injured workers. Just like these Braves, if you've been hurt on the job, go to www.gerberholderlaw.com, GERBERHOLDER law.com. So yeah, I talked to him in San Diego. He's in good spirits, man. I said, is it frustrating? He goes, yeah, just that I'm not out there able to help, but I understand, they told me you gotta be careful, your game speed and all that. We can't have you running until, so he's done everything else. He's kept his arm in shape. He's been hitting, just hadn't sprint, hadn't done any sprint and hadn't done any real shagging or anything in the outfield because they don't want him to really push it beyond what it's capable of doing. I asked him about Kelnick, and Kelnick has quietly slipped into a slump now because he was on fire for a while in that leadoff spot. And we're like, oh man, it's going to be hard. It might be hard to put Michael Harris back in the leadoff spot when Harris is doing so well. But if you look at his numbers now, it's come back to reality, and so it'll be interesting. Obviously, Harris goes back to center, but I think unless he kind of turns it around as first weeks after the break, I would think I'd probably put Harris back in the leadoff spot. But Harris started to look comfortable there at the end before he got hurt in that leadoff spot.
Yeah. I mean, I think you also look at like who you want Harris to be.
Right.
I mean, Kelnick, same thing. I mean, if he can do
Yeah.
that, but he almost strikes me as more of a guy that you'd want to eventually develop power and be hitting in the middle of the order.
Yeah.
But Harris, you're looking at like I think of him as a one or two hitter. I mean, he honestly with the power he has, there's some teams where he might be in the 3 or 4 hole.
Right. Right.
But for
but
you,
yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, in the 2 hole, especially since they don't have an obvious 2 hole hitter,
yeah,
when Acuna gets back next year, I like your thinking there with Harris keeps developing. I like Harris behind Acuna.
yes,
If Harris is as solid as he was for the last 3 or 4 months, or whenever he came back last year from the injury, he was on fire after that.
yep.
And if he's hitting like that with his speed after Acuna, that I like that. And then Riley at third,
Hmm.
that's nice. So we'll see, but it's not as obvious. I thought for a while there when Kelnick the first 3 or 4 weeks in the leadoff spot, I'm like, oh, you're not gonna move him out of that spot. But now it's like, okay, maybe so.
Yeah, I
But
mean, it'll work itself out.
yeah,
Always
but he's
does.
played great defense though. That's the strong thing is Kelnick has played great defense in center. So whenever Harris gets back, your offense is going to get so much better with Kelnick in one of the corners. And I still think you got to go out and you got to trade for an outfielder. I think they will with an expiring contract. Not a huge splash, but somebody either replace or platoon with Duvall because Duvall's fine against lefties, but somebody's
Yeah,
got to get in there and face righties at least. And you can find that, even if it's Tommy Pham, somebody like that to play it every day, or if you get a platoon guy, whatever. I think you got to. You can't count on Laureano, who's been hurt again after just playing for a couple of weeks. Rosario, is people have realized, okay, there's a reason the Nationals let go of him. He's still hitting under 200, had a couple big hits, but he's not the answer. So they got to go out and get that. They got to add a bat. And they got to get Olson turned around, man, because Olson's been in a huge funk again after hitting hard, after looking like himself for about 3 weeks. He's like, this break's coming at a good time, man. And Snit told Seitzer, just tell them all to go home. Good. We're not
yep.
coming back to gather for batting practice on Thursday, or not. Just go home, take 4 days, decompress, and we'll get back at it. And they were all kind of relieved to hear that, including Seitzer. He's going home to Kansas City, and it's like, see you Friday. Let's do it.
You need that though, especially if you've had a rough first half. You can, I kind of, when I was playing, I looked at it month to month. And if I had a bad month, I'm like, all right, let's put together a good May. Let's put together, and you can do it with halves too. And it can
Yeah,
just, that mentality restart where, you come out of the break hot and you're like, look, I'm hitting 330 in the second half.
yeah,
And when my season's over, I'm forgetting the first half. I'm focusing on that second half and how I finished and I had a good year. But sometimes you need those resets, and the All-Star break's just the perfect one.
yeah,
Because the second half's shorter too. But if it's the perfect one to just start fresh, and whatever's up there on the scoreboard, if it says 226, you don't have to
right.
feel it. You can just think, yeah, but I'm hitting 330 in the second
Yeah.
half. Something like that. It's a good time to for everybody to have a hard reset the way it's going.
Yeah, I've never really researched this, but I wonder why it is called the first half, and why the All-Star game isn't played a little earlier. It's probably because they want to wait and make sure the weather's right or
Yeah.
whatever, and you're in, and basketball's over and all that. It's probably reasons why it is where it is, but it's actually the first 3/5
Yeah.
because they played 3/5 of the season. All the
hmm
teams are between like 96 and 99 games played. So they got like 60, 62 to play when they come back.
Well, that second 62 feels longer than the first 100, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you get into late July, early August, and it feels like you've been playing for 12 months and until
Especially crappy
September.
teams.
Yeah. Oh, if you're out of it, yeah.
Yeah. The good
But
teams, it's like a sprint when they get back. It's like, okay, now we gotta go, we gotta
yep.
either hold that team off or catch that team or hold our spot.
If you could
It's
just
gonna
get to September, then you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. But I mean, it's so easy watching the games. I could check out and not watch three, but when you're going to the park every day and you
yeah,
add in spring training, it's a long year.
yeah, yeah. That's why the All-Star break is necessary. It's necessary. All right. Well, I hope everybody enjoys watching Marcell Ozuna in the home run derby tonight. He did a practice round in San Diego when we were out there. He was going for it, man. He was hitting them a ton.
Yeah,
So
I mean, big boy.
he's going to have Yeppy throwing to him, and it should be interesting. There's not any obvious favorites in this thing, so I think he might just compete and go.
I know they have there's a bunch of new rules and stuff, but
Yeah, it's right. I haven't even looked over the rules.
I
They
didn't
they
either.
have they were out today. They were out today.
I'll figure it out while I'm watching.
And how about Skeens starting, man?
That's cool.
It's a fans game. I don't mind. I don't mind that. You know what it reminds me of? You're not old enough to remember this, but I remember when I was a kid, Mark Fidrich, exactly the same scenario. Mark the Bird Fidrich.
I remember him.
We didn't have internet and games on every night, everywhere. We had a game of the week. We had Monday Night Baseball. And Mark Fidrich pitched on Monday Night Baseball. He had made several starts, and he was like the talk of baseball.
I remember
Even
that.
though there was nothing viral then, it still got around because he talked to the ball on the mound. He
Yep.
talked to the ball. He had long hair and everything, and he was good too. Really good. He ended up blowing out early and shoulder or elbow. I think it's shoulder. And his career short circuit. But man, he was one of those shooting stars. But he started the All-Star game after 11 starts, just like Skeens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not like he's not special. I mean, his
Right.
probably got he's might be bringing the best stuff to the game.
Right. I don't think there's another pitcher that's going to go, I deserve to start over him. Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's ask the fans which they think. I think the one that would have deserved to start if he didn't pitch yesterday is Chris Sale.
Yep.
He's talk about a great story coming back from what he did and doing what he's done this year. But I think this worked out better for the Braves. I'd rather him go out and pitch 5 innings against the Padres in a game that mattered
Get
than
some
go
time
out
on.
and get. He's so competitive. He'd be trying to throw 100 and strike out everybody in his one inning, letting it
Yep.
eat. I'd
Yeah.
rather
Yeah.
him do
Especially when you
this.
tell them you only got one inning.
Yes.
Tough to tame it.
And everybody watching, those who haven't been able to see him, that he's back. Yeah,
hmm
even as smart as he is, I think he would have gone out there and trying to in an exhibition game. You don't need to use Chris Sale at this point. Just cross your fingers. He's done great. You don't
Yeah.
want to need to
Yeah.
push it and have him pitching in exhibition games.
Exactly.
So, all right, everybody, we appreciate it. That's it. 7:55 forever. We are out.